Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Virtual Candidates Night, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Ashtabula County and the Ashtabula County District Library. My name is Rebecca Moisio, and I am the Marketing and Community Relations Coordinator for the Ashtabula County District Library. I will serve as your moderator for this forum. Please note that recordings of this event, whether they be in person or a screen capture, may not be used without the express written approval of the sponsors, the League of Women Voters of Ashtabula County, and the Ashtabula County District Library. Before we begin this evening, we'll hear a word from our sponsors.
Welcome I'm Mary Howe. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Ashtabula County, and we want to welcome you to this Candidates Night, our first ever virtual Candidates Night, and we're happy to be doing it in conjunction with the Ashtabula County District Library. For many years we've done Candidates Nights, but they've always been in person with the candidates live, the audience live, and we've enjoyed that. But of course, with different times, we're doing it differently, so this is by Zoom, and we're glad that you're able to join us. League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, and one of our goals, one of the things we do, is to encourage people to vote and to be informed voters. So that's why we have the Candidates Nights, so that you can hear what the candidates have to say and decide for yourself who to vote for. The League of Women Voters does not endorse any political candidate or political party. We are totally nonpartisan. And so we're presenting this to you tonight, or today, whenever you're watching it, so that you can decide for yourself who to vote for. And thank you for joining us.
One of our most influential powers in being U.S. citizens is exercising our right to vote. And being an informed voter isn't always an easy task. Today's public libraries are one of America's most democratic institutions. They ensure community members have access to accurate information and lifelong learning opportunities, regardless of their station in life. That is why I'm so proud of the staff here at the Ashtabula County District Library in this partnership with the League of Women Voters of Ashtabula County as they bring together this Candidates Night Forum for our 2020 election. And kudos to you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to become a more informed voter. Thanks for watching.
Candidates, those of you who are watching with us, thank you for joining us. Here are the ground rules that were given to the candidates before the forum. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement. Questions were solicited from the public. Questions will be randomly drawn. Due to time constraints, we may not be able to ask every question submitted. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Our timekeeper, Courtney, will issue an audible warning at 30 seconds and then alert the candidates when the time is up. The speaker must immediately conclude his or her remarks. Time limits are closely followed to ensure fairness to all candidates. We will draw the name of the candidate who will begin the opening remarks for each race. Candidates, if you would like for me to repeat the question, please feel free to ask. Also, do not feel like you have to use up the entire minute for your reply. So now that you know the format, we'll get started. The first race that we have this evening is the Ohio State Representative of the 64th District. This is a term that is 2 years. It commences on January 1st, 2021. The responsibilities of this office are to represent the people of the district and the state of Ohio in dealing with matters not allocated to the federal government. The precincts for this district are Andover Village, Andover Township, Colebrook Township, Orwell Village, Orwell Township, Wayne Township, Williamsfield Township, and Windsor Township. The candidates that we have this evening are Michael J. O'Brien and Martha Yoder. Candidates, thank you for being with us. I will draw to see who will begin with the opening remarks. Candidate Yoder, you will begin. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Martha Yoder. I'm running for state representative in the 64th District, and I am not a career politician. What I am is a widow, a mother, and a small business owner. I founded YSLS Incorporated more than 25 years ago to provide quality residential care to developmentally disabled adults. My first venture into public affairs was as a community columnist for the Warren Tribune Chronicle, where, among other things, I wrote about the issues with the Trumbull County Health Department. I wanted to do more than just write and was elected Farmington Township trustee. As trustee, I worked to modernize and organize the board and led the way in creating 24/7 EMS and fire service for the township. I made my own education as a public official a high priority, attending Ohio Township Association conferences, Congressman Dave Joyce's local leadership conferences, and meeting regularly with local, state, and federal officials. I'm a graduate of the Ohio Township Association Leadership Academy. I currently serve as vice chair of the Trumbull County Transit Board. I'm a member of and have volunteered in many community organizations. As a legislator, I would work with the majority to facilitate economic recovery from the pandemic and also improve infrastructure. My late husband suffered from Lewy body dementia. I learned a great deal firsthand about dementia and its effects on individuals and families. Our system is unequipped to deal appropriately with the increasing numbers of individuals with dementia, estimated to triple by 2050. I will advocate for a task force to assess the needs for legal and medical reforms to address the needs of families who face this issue. I'm uniquely qualified to lead this effort. Overall, my diverse experience in both the private and public sectors makes me the better choice in November. Once again, I'm Martha Yoder. I'm running for state representative in the 64th district. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Yoder. Candidate O'Brien.
Thank you very much. And I'll have to apologize. I'm calling from a parking lot in a truck stop in Lodi, Ohio, just driving back from Columbus. When you examine my resume, you'll see a stark difference between me and my opponent. I'm a graduate of John F. Kennedy High School in Warren. I'm a graduate of Youngstown State University. I worked for the Warren Police Department for 3 years and was a probation officer for the Trumbull County Family Court for 11 years. I was elected to city council and I served as a city councilman in Warren for 11 years. Then I was elected to Trumbull County Commissioner and I served as a county commissioner for 11 years. Then I was elected to serve as the city of Warren's mayor and I served 2 terms, 8 years as the city of Warren's mayor. I was then elected and reelected to serve as the 64th district state representative in the state house, and I'm running for my 4th term. I'm presently the chairman. I am presently the chairman of the Energy Generation Committee, and I'm also on the Government Oversight Committee to oversee House Bill 6, which I was a sponsor to repeal House Bill 6. That's House Bill 738. I am also on the Transportation and Public Safety Committee. I am also on the Finance Committee as a senior member of the Finance Committee. I serve on the board of directors of local high school at John F. Kennedy. I'm the former chairman of the board at Trumbull Memorial Hospital, former chairman of the board of the United Way of Trumbull County, and former chairman of the board of Valley Counseling. I am also a former commander of the Sons of the American Legion. I've received many awards, Public Official of the Year Award in the state of Ohio, and the National Public Official of the Year Award for the National Association of Social Workers. I have 2 distinguished awards from the Youngstown Warren Regional Chamber of Commerce. One was the Business Advocate of the Year Award, and one was the Public Official of the Year Award. Thank you very much. My name is Michael O'Brien, and I am your state representative.
Thank you, candidate O'Brien. Candidate O'Brien, I'll have you begin with the questions for us this evening. Under what circumstances is it appropriate for the state to restrain or check local government?
Well, I feel that most recently with the issue we have nationally with the COVID epidemic, I feel that the Ohio Department of Public Health should be the main overseer of all public health for everyone in the state of Ohio. And if it's wearing masks, if it's shutting down businesses, if it's changing the times of liquor establishments to be open, if it's changing the changing of the years or the months of school, I think the State Department of Public Health in Columbus, with the direction of the governor, it's appropriate to oversee the local governments.
Thank you, candidate O'Brien. Candidate Yoder.
When local governments are violating the state or U.S. Constitution.
Thank you, candidate Yoder. Candidate Yoder, I'll have you start the next question. Where do you stand on women's productive rights and health?
I am unashamedly pro-life. I'm an adoptive mom. My son's birth mother chose adoption instead of abortion, and I'm forever grateful for that. I don't believe that abortion is healthcare.
Thank you, Candidate Yoder. Candidate O'Brien?
Yes, thank you very much. And I stand as I am pro-choice. I feel that the reproductive rights of a woman is up to the woman, and that's her choice to decide on the reproductive rights, and it's not government's role to be interfering in that role. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate O'Brien. Candidate O'Brien, I'll have you start the next question. Where do you stand on the efforts to protect our water, air, and land? Include how you would address climate change.
As far as air, land, and water, in the state of Ohio, we have a very strong programs called H2 Ohio, which I serve on the agriculture subcommittee, and we're very involved with the Ohio EPA and the Ohio EPA and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and the Ohio Department of Agriculture are very involved in the water aspects of the state of Ohio, especially with the algae blooms in Lake Erie on the Western Basin. As far as climate change, I think there's absolutely scientific evidence of the climate change is unequivocal warning throughout this nation. And I think that the federal government should address climate change once and for all. And I believe that climate change exists in this country.
Thank you, Candidate O'Brien. Candidate Yoder?
I do agree with Candidate O'Brien on the efforts of the Ohio EPA to address water and air quality, and the federal EPA as well. I believe that those are adequate. I do not believe in man-made climate change.
Thank you, Candidate Yoder. Candidate Yoder, I'll have you start the next question. In what ways would you change our election system in order to be prepared for crises that impair our right to vote?
I think that actually that's just recently been addressed with House Bill 272, which Mr. O'Brien voted against, in that we will not be able to change our elections. We won't have the situation that we had in March again. And I believe it's been adequately addressed from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Yoder. Candidate O'Brien?
Yes, the Secretary of State is confident. And as a matter of fact, it was just 4 hours ago, he had a press conference. He's confident that the elections in the state of Ohio will be secure, contrary to what the President of the United States says, number one. Number two, I feel that we should have free postage for absentee ballots, and there was more than enough money in the CARES Act. The Republican Board of Control chose not to use that CARES money. There's $1 million in CARES money for free postage. And number three, I think additional drop boxes are appropriate. As a matter of fact, I was involved with the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, who constructed the drop box in Trumbull County. And I think that, as Secretary of State LaRose says, we have an honest and fair election, and we'll have an honest and fair count.
Thank you, Candidate O'Brien. Candidate O'Brien, I'll have you start the next question. How would you implement a constitutionally compliant school funding system?
I am a co-sponsor of the Cupp-Patterson bill, and the Rolfe situation that was decades and decades ago found that the funding of the state of Ohio schools is unconstitutional. The Cupp-Patterson bill changes that, and it eliminates the over-reliance on property taxes towards the funding of schools. The interesting part and aspect of the Cupp-Patterson bill is that it takes some political will. In other words, general fund dollars from the state of Ohio will also supplement the funding of schools. And it's really an analysis of how much it costs to educate a child. And once we have those figures, we'll be able to pass that Cupp-Patterson bill. And I look for that bill to pass, which I'm a co-sponsor, in the lame duck session.
Thank you, Candidate O'Brien. Candidate Yoder?
Senator Andrew Brenner, when he was in the House back in 2016, floated a really good idea, and that is to actually abolish all the local levies and have a straight property tax throughout the state. And it would require a constitutional amendment to do this. But I actually think that that's probably the fairest way to do that, and it would level the field. And I think it would satisfy the constitutional requirements.
Thank you, Candidate Yoder. Candidate Yoder, I'll have you start the next question. How do you plan to support minority communities in your district?
Well, most of our minority communities are actually in the city of Warren. I have reached out to them, and I do have friends within the minority communities. I think that the biggest thing that we all need to do is sit down and talk. And I think that's unfortunately not happening a lot in our world right now. But I absolutely, if I am state representative, I would reach out and talk to them. And I would not tell them what they need. I would tell them what they need.
Thank you, Candidate Yoder. Candidate O'Brien?
Well, thank you very much. As mayor of the city of Warren, see the difference between me and my opponent. I do not have to reach out to talk to the minority community. I see him daily. The mayor of the city of Warren, Doug Franklin, was my safety director. The safety director now, Ed Colbert, was my councilman. I'm endorsed by the Youngstown Warren Black Caucus. I am a strong advocate of the minority community. I've been there. I work with them. I have dinner with them. They're my friends. I've been together with them for 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate O'Brien. Candidate O'Brien, I'll have you start the next question. What will you do to combat gerrymandering and ensure that voter-approved redistricting reforms are implemented?
State of Ohio is a 50-50 state, 50% Republican, 50% Democrat. But you know, in the state of Ohio, we have 61 Republicans and 38 Democrats in the Ohio House. That is because of gerrymandering. You know, twice we've had ballot initiatives, and most recently we had a ballot initiative and a statewide ballot, and it passed 75-25 to revise gerrymandering and redesign the districts. And the controlled Republican House has failed to do that, and they have the majority in the discussion, and we must insist, and I think that will come from the governor, to insist that gerrymandering be an equal playing field.
Thank you, Candidate O'Brien. Candidate Yoder?
Well, we've passed constitutional amendments in the last couple of years for both House districts and for congressional districts. And I don't really quite follow Mr. O'Brien saying that that the Republicans haven't done anything. We haven't completed the census, so we haven't started the process according to those constitutional amendments. As far as what I would do, I would follow the constitutional amendments, and we need to give them time to see if they're going to work. I believe that they will.
Thank you, Candidate Yoder. Candidate Yoder, I'll have you start the next question. Where do you stand on gun safety measures?
The rights of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Thank you, Candidate Yoder. Candidate O'Brien?
Thank you. I'm in favor of law-abiding ownership of firearms, but at the same time, the governor has insisted, he has begged for the change of the laws, and the Democrats have introduced 4 separate bills, and they have yet to have one hearing. Red flag bills, mentally ill not carrying guns, felons, increasing the crimes for felons that are carrying guns, to the guns in schools. We've had bill after bill that the governor has insisted, yet the Republican-controlled House refuses to let these bills make it to the floor. We haven't even had committee meetings on these bills, and I just feel it's something that has to be look at that we have in the state of Ohio with gun violence throughout the nation as well. But this is something that is a problem, and the governor is advocating for a change, and we need to act, and the Republicans need to act quickly.
Thank you so much, Candidate O'Brien. That is all the questions that we have for this race. I thank you so much, candidates, for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Our next race is for the judge of the 11th District Court of Appeals. This term begins on February 9th, 2021. The responsibilities of this office are the Court of Appeals is essentially a court of review. It hears appeals from the common pleas, county, and municipal courts. Decisions are final, except in cases involving constitutional questions, cases of felony, cases in which it has original jurisdiction, and cases of public or great general interest. It is a 6-year term. The candidates for this office are Timothy P. Cannon and Matt Lynch. Unfortunately, candidate Lynch is unwilling to participate in tonight's event. He states the league filed lawsuits to eliminate signature verification on Ohio ballots. Therefore, judicial ethics prohibits my participation in the candidate night. We are obligated to follow the League of Women Voters of the United States and Ohio's empty chair policy for federal and state races. If there is an empty chair in a 2-candidate race, a debate cannot be held, and we cannot give the president candidate time for remarks. Thank you so much, candidate Timothy Cannon, for attending. We appreciate that you're here. Candidate Timothy Cannon's biographical information and answers to questions are published in the League of Women Voters of Ashtabula County and Gazette Newspaper's Voters Guide that will be delivered to households beginning October 1st. Copies of the Voters Guide will be available in local libraries. Candidate Timothy Cannon's biographical information and responses to questions are also available online at Vote 411, a voting resource available 24/7. Candidate Cannon, again, thank you so much for making yourself available, and we regret that your opponent did not do the same. We wish you good luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
We will take a break now. Our next race will be at 7:10. Thank you.
Okay.
When you vote, something powerful happens to your voice. Your single ballot becomes a megaphone. You stand out and tell your community and our nation what you want for our future. Vote411.org is your tool for accurate and unbiased election information on the issues that affect you and the people you care about. Through Vote 411, you can register to vote using our online form that only takes a few minutes to complete, available in multiple languages. Check your registration status and find out where to vote right on the Vote 411 homepage, and get important up-to-the-minute information on the elections happening in your state and local community through the Vote 411 interactive map. Your voice is strong and important. It is a critical part of our democracy. Vote411.org is your tool for all the election information you need. Get online, get the facts, and make your voice heard on Election Day. Powered by the League of Women Voters Education Fund.
Cuando votas, tu voz se hace potente, tu boleta de electora se transforma en un megáfono. Tú, destácate y dile a tu comunidad y a nuestra nación lo que quieres para nuestro futuro. Vote411.org es tu herramienta para obtener información de elecciones exacta e imparcial sobre los temas que te afectan a ti y a tus seres queridos. En Vote411 puedes inscribirte para votar usando nuestro formulario en línea que podrás llenar en pocos minutos, disponible en español. Verifica tu estatus de inscripción y encuentra dónde puedes votar en la página principal de Vote411 y conoce información importante de última hora sobre las elecciones en tu estado y comunidad local con el mapa interactivo de Vote411. Tu voz es fuerte e importante, es parte vital de nuestra democracia. Vote411.org es nuestra herramienta para obtener toda la información de elecciones que necesitas. Entra en el sitio web, infórmate y haz que tu voz se escuche el día de las elecciones.
All right, welcome back. We will move on to our next race. Our next race is for the Ohio State Senate, District 32. This is a 4-year term. The responsibilities of this office are to represent the district and the state of Ohio in dealing with matters not allocated to the federal government. The candidates for this position are Sean O'Brien and Sandra O'Brien. It looks like candidate Sandra O'Brien is unwilling to participate in tonight's event.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have not had any contact from candidate Sandra O'Brien. We are obligated to follow the League of Women Voters of the United States and Ohio's empty chair policy for federal and state races. If there is an empty chair in a 2-candidate race, a debate cannot be held. We cannot give the president candidate time for remarks. We thank candidate Sean O'Brien for attending. Candidate Sean O'Brien's biographical information and answers to questions are published in the League of Women Voters of Ashtabula County and Gazette Newspaper's Voter's Guide. The Voter's Guide will be delivered to households beginning October 1st. Copies of the guide will also be available in local libraries. Candidate Sean O'Brien's biographical information and responses to answers to questions are also available online at Vote 411, a voting resource available online 24/7. Candidate Sean O'Brien, thank you again for making yourself available. We regret that your opponent did not do the same. Good luck to you on your campaign.
Thank you.
We will take another break. Our next race will begin at 7:30. Thank you.
Sounds like, I'm here.
Okay.
The League of Women Voters was founded almost 100 years ago with the right to vote for women. Not only the right to vote, but an informed vote.
You need to know everything about that candidate. You need to be able to ask that candidate questions.
I attend a lot of county council meetings and planning and zoning advisory board meetings. And I listen for where there are issues that we may have a position so that we know how to weigh in where we're needed in our community.
The League has been very active in going into the schools, making sure that it's easy for students to register to vote.
Also making sure there's equity in voting access. So working on issues of redistricting, issues of gerrymandering, issues of money in politics, issues of how are we hearing the voices of our community and which of those voices are being marginalized.
The League can come in and say, okay, let's go to the people that are disenfranchised. We don't care who they vote for. We want people to vote because that's what makes democracy work.
I think that the organization is going to continue to attract a diverse membership, and I think that that will help us in working toward the goal of better representation for everybody.
There's a wonderful opportunity here for people who are younger to come and learn from women who have been part of social movements for years and years.
It's our job to be a mentor to the newer members because they're the ones, after all, that are going to be carrying the banner of the League into the next 100 years.
Without the League of Women Voters, this country would lack a role model for the progress that can be made when you work in a nonpartisan way.
Without the League of Women Voters, voting rights would be left just to the privileged.
I'm proud of the passion that the League has for these issues of voter justice and equity in our political system. That is exciting to me, and I think that'll really carry the League forward.
We stand for the nonpartisanship that we should all have as leaders in our democracy today.
All right, welcome back. We're going to begin now with our next race. The next race is for the Ohio Court of Appeals judge for the 11th District. This full term commences on February 10th, 2021. It is a 6-year term. The Court of Appeals is essentially a court of review. It hears appeals from the common pleas, county, and municipal courts. Decisions are final, except in cases involving constitutional questions, cases of felony, cases in which it has original jurisdiction, and cases of public or great interest. The candidates for this race are Cynthia Westcott Rice and Sarah Thomas Cavor. Candidates, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I will begin by drawing to see who starts with opening statements. Candidate Cynthia Westcott Rice, you can begin with your opening statement.
I don't see a visual. Can you see me?
No, we cannot see you. Can you start your camera?
It says I can't because the host has to start it. There we go.
All right, you begin when you're ready.
Okay, thank you so much. It's thank you, the League of Women Voters, for having this event tonight. It's been an honor and a privilege serving as your judge on the 11th District Court of Appeals for the past 18 years. I'm seeking re-election to my 4th term on the bench, and currently I am the administrative judge at the Court of Appeals, and I've also sat as a visiting judge multiple times at the Ohio Supreme Court and on the 2nd, the 7th, and the 9th District Courts of Appeals. Our court's a little bit different than what trial courts you think of when you think of a trial court and what we see on TV. We're an appellate court, so the only people who come before us, we don't have witnesses, we don't have trials, we don't retry cases. What we do is we hear from the attorneys who bring before us issues of law. If they feel that something was done improperly in the lower court, in the trial court, they appeal to us. And so then we look at the law and we apply the law to the facts of the case and decide whether or not something has been done improperly in the case and whether or not the case needs to be remanded for retrial. We sit in 5 counties. We sit not only in Ashtabula, but in Trumbull, Portage, Geauga, and Lake counties. And because only attorneys appear before us arguing the law, it's important. That is what makes the Bar Association polls so important to voters. The Bar Association members all weigh in on their thoughts on judges and judicial candidates and who they think should be on the bench. I'm very proud to say that I've been highly recommended by the Lake County Bar Association, and the Trumbull County Bar Association has voted me the preferred candidate, with 88% of the attorneys preferring me over my opponent. The Portage County Bar Association also has recommended me for judge on the Court of Appeals. Before I took the bench, I spent 12 years as a state and federal prosecutor. And there I was the Assistant United States Attorney in Youngstown, where I tried all federal crimes in all the district courts in the District of Ohio.
Thank you, Candidate Rice. Candidate Cavor.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Thomas Cavor, and I'm your conservative candidate for the 11th District Court of Appeals. I have had a varied and diverse practice. I've practiced for over 22 years, including state and federal prosecutions. I've practiced civil law inside and outside of the state of Ohio, including family law, civil rights litigation, constitutional law. As a prosecutor, I have prosecuted cases from juvenile, traffic courts, all the way to capital cases. As a defense attorney, the same. And as a civil litigator, I have litigated cases including your First and your Second Amendment rights. I believe that for people to feel that the process is fair in any court, they have to feel that they have been heard, their voices have been heard, that they have had an impartial magistrate or judge listen to their case with an open mind. And I believe my diverse background would put me in a better position to understand both sides of a case, regardless of whether it's criminal prosecution or civil cases. Again, I've had both types of experience, both as a litigator, both criminal and civil, in and out of the state of Ohio. I have had cases in Illinois, in Pennsylvania, for instance, and I've had landmark cases in both types of practices, civil and criminal. I've been in practice, like I said, for over 22 years, but I've had my own practice. I've had my own business. I think I have a judicial philosophy, which is that I believe in interpreting the law as written. I have obedience to the Constitution. I believe that the voters of Northeast Ohio would feel that I would be the better candidate for this position, and I'm looking for the voters to decide who would be their best candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Kavor. Candidate Kavor, I'll have you start with our questions this evening. Why are you running for this particular court seat?
Well, I've been in practice for 22 years, and I think almost every lawyer who is a litigator looks at the judges and how they review the cases, whether it's in trial court or an appellate court, and always second guess what they would do. Given that I've had over 22 years of experience and in a very diverse practice, I've had that chance to do that quite a bit. And I think I can use that experience to be a judge and have more of an impact. I had, for example, a case that affected the prison population federally all over the country, and that is good law. It was argued in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in front of Judge Posner, and that was a great experience for me. But I feel like I've reached my ability in terms of the kind of impact that I've had as an attorney, both as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, and as a civil litigator. I think I can have more of an impact for jurisprudence on the bench.
Thank you, Candidate Kavor. Candidate Rice?
The reason I'm running is because back in 2002, there was a vacancy on the seat. And at that time, I felt it was important that someone have a significant criminal law and procedure experience. I ran in 2002. And since that time, I have been able to contribute my insights and knowledge about criminal law and procedure. Having been a federal and state prosecutor for 12 years, I thought I had a lot to contribute. I'm the co-chair of the Criminal Law and Procedure Committee for the Ohio Judicial Conference. So I head up the committee that reviews legislation that's being proposed on criminal matters and criminal laws. We look at it to determine whether or not the laws are being proposed are constitutional, and we advise the legislature on how it's going to impact the courts. I believe that experience, and in addition to that, the 18 years on the bench, is what is a benefit to the voters and to the parties who appear before us in the court.
Thank you, Candidate Rice.
Thank you.
Candidate Rice, I'll have you begin with the next question. What are the biggest changes you think we need to make in our justice system?
Well, I think COVID-19 has given us a lot of opportunities to make a lot of changes. I know at our court, we have been practicing by Zoom conferences. That makes it more cost effective for parties to appear before us at the court, in that they Zoom as we're doing right here. And I feel like when you're in a Zoom conference, it's a very informal conversation and discussion about the law with the attorneys. So it seems to be very effective in getting to the bottom of the matters that are appearing before us. So I think that's one of the things that we're changing. We're also looking at changing some of the sentencing laws in Ohio. I know that the Supreme Court Justice has started a database to look at sentencing in our courts. And what we're working with the Ohio Judicial Conference is revamping our statute, which reviews our standard review for appeals on criminal sentencing. So that's one thing we're working in, and also on bail reform throughout the state. That's been already started.
Thank you, Candidate Rice. Candidate Kavor?
Well, first is politicization of the courts. I really dislike how that is happening all around the country. And the second, I will say, is where the judiciary gets involved in more than what their role is. I'm running for a judge. That's the judicial branch. I'm not running for the legislature or for the executive branch. And I feel that it's an improper role for the judiciary to get involved with determining or assisting the legislature in constitutionality or unconstitutionality of cases. I believe there's separation of power issues and conflict of interest issues. And I that is one of the things that I think that the public should also have a voice in saying and knowing that your judicial branch should be separate and distinct from the legislature. We're not a super legislature in the 11th District Court of Appeals.
Thank you, Candidate Kabor. Candidate Kabor, I'll have you start the next question. What injustices have you witnessed in or outside the courtroom, and what responses did you have to those events?
Well, since a bulk of my practice is criminal, family law, and civil rights litigation, I have seen tremendous injustices to people of all different backgrounds, and that includes social backgrounds, racial backgrounds, religious backgrounds. One of the types of cases that doesn't get much press or voice out there is people who are dealing with custody disputes in family courts. I've had a father who lost 30 seconds. A child to the mother who fled out of the state because of an affidavit that was false provided by their police officer in family court. And we've been struggling for years to get that child back to Ohio. How does one deal with that? And during that period of time, this child is growing up. You don't get that time back with your child. And that, for example, is one terrible area that fathers and mothers deal with. Criminal defense is another civil rights to.
Thank you, Candidate Kabor. Candidate Rice?
Well, as far as injustice that I've seen, that is what we deal with at the Court of Appeals. We deal with injustice, and it's our job as judges to review the case and to correct injustices. So every case that we have reversed and that I have reversed over the past 18 years is an injustice that was done in some form, whether it was procedurally, whether it was the judge, whether it was one of the prosecutors who've done something improper. Those cases are what we are duty bound as judges to reverse and remand.
Thank you, Candidate Rice. Candidate Rice, I'll have you start the next question. Can you explain your judicial philosophy in plain English?
In plain English, my judicial philosophy is that I honor and respect the law. It's my job as a judge to apply the law to the facts in the case before me. I believe there's no way you can say, label yourself as a judge as to what your leanings are, whether it's conservative, liberal. I think that's improper as a judge, because as a judge, we have to be fair and impartial and open-minded about every case that comes before the court. And if I were to tell someone my leanings and how I'm going to vote on cases, then that would be improper and a violation of judicial ethics. So it's my philosophy that you set your personal opinions aside and you decide the case based upon the law and the facts before you, and only the law and the facts before you, not what you wish the law was, what you think it should be, but what the law is.
Thank you, Candidate Rice. Candidate Kabor?
I believe that our law, our rights come from our Creator and not from government, not the other way. I believe they're inalienable. I believe that that we as a people give government the power to protect us, whether it's through police or healthcare, but that is a power that we give to government. If the voters of Northeast Ohio elect me, I will be interpreting the law of Congress, statutes, precedents as written.
Thank you, Candidate Kabor. Candidate Kabor, I'll have you start the next question. What do you perceive as the greatest obstacle to justice, if any?
I think that the greatest obstacle is money. It's when litigants don't have the ability to pursue their case in court. For example, we were talking about custody issues. You don't have legal aid on those kind of cases in Ohio for the most part. And how do they keep on proceeding to fight for their rights unless they can do it on their own? They would have to have some knowledge of the law procedurally. There's rules. So I think it comes down for everybody to have equal justice under the law. It's difficult when some people don't have, a lot of people don't have the funds to pursue their cases.
Thank you, Candidate Kavor. Candidate Rice?
I would have to agree that one of the biggest obstacles is access to the court due to lack of education, information, and money. And that is why at our court we work very closely with pro se litigants to give them an opportunity to represent themselves. We make information available on our website so that they can understand what's expected of them as far as filing a brief to present their argument before the court. We allow for oral argument with pro se litigants. As far as obstacles, when somebody's a criminal defendant, they are by law appointed counsel. So they're always represented. It's the civil cases, the domestic cases that become a problem as far as making sure that people have access to justice.
Thank you, Candidate Rice. Candidate Rice, I'll have you start the next question. How will you handle conflicts of interest on the bench?
Well, currently, we review every case that is filed in our court for a conflict. So any case that is filed, whether it's in Lake County, Ashtabula, Geauga, Portage, or Trumbull, we review it. We look at who the parties are. And if there is any conflict, we recuse ourselves. As far as it doesn't happen a whole lot, but it does occasionally. And it's a matter of just making sure that there's the appearance of impropriety is never portrayed through the actions of the court. I've been asked to recuse myself from cases, even though I had no conflict. I have recused myself because if it made someone feel more comfortable, it's okay. We have 5 judges on our bench, so another judge can sit in my place. But it doesn't happen a whole lot, but it does happen occasionally. I don't sit on my sister-in-law's cases, my husband's cases, or my best friend's cases, because people would think maybe I was partial to them. So it's all about the appearance of impropriety.
Thank you, Candidate Rice. Candidate Kavor?
I think in the appellate courts, it's less of a problem. I think there's enough of a panel that somebody can recuse themselves, and they're always concerned about the appearance of impropriety, like Judge Rice said. However, I see that there's a problem in the trial court level. It's very hard for an attorney, for example, in a criminal defense case, to ask for a recusal unless you have all the information regarding a judge, and sometimes you just don't have all of that. Let's say you have a judge who's a law director, and then you have a case with multiple attorneys as witnesses. What do you do? It's a difficult situation there, and I wish we had more guidance.
Thank you, Candidate Kavor. Candidate Kavor, I'll have you start the next question. What about your non-judicial legal experience qualifies you to be judge of the 11th District Court of Appeals?
My non-legal experience? Is that what you're referring to? Well, I've been a mother, a grandmother. I've lived in rural Trumbull County for over 3 decades. I've been very involved in the community. I was president of Rotary. I was president of a women's club in the area. I've done charity work both in and outside of the United States. I think I've had a lifetime of experience that would make me someone who is empathetic and fair-minded and open-minded for any litigant that comes before me.
Thank you, Candidate Kavor. Candidate Rice?
I think as I grew up on a small farm in Indiana, and I was a member of a big family, and we didn't have a lot of money. So when we were able to go to college, I worked in factories in the summertime, and I waited tables, during the school year to pay for my expenses. And I think it helped me understand everyday average people, everybody, what we're going through and what we're trying to do just to make ends meet and to get by. I think also being a prosecutor has been very helpful. And then I worked one-on-one with victims of crime and how important the decisions that come out of the court are to them and how their life is on hold until they have finality in a case. And I think understanding that gives me a lot of empathy and perspective as when I review the cases as a judge.
Thank you, Candidate Rice. That is all the time we have and all the questions we have for this race. Thank you so much, candidates, for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, League of Women Voters.
Our next race will be the Ohio State Representative of the 99th District. This is a 2-year term that commences January 1st in 2021. The responsibilities of this office are to represent the people of the district and the state of Ohio in dealing with matters not allocated to the federal government. The precincts of this district are all precincts with the exception of Andover Village, Andover Township, Colebrook Township, Orwell Village, Orwell Township, Wayne Township, Williamsfield Township, and Windsor Township. The candidates for this race are Richard Dana and Sarah E. Fowler Arthur. Candidates, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
I will draw to see who will begin with our opening comments. Candidate Fowler Arthur, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you for having us this evening. I appreciate you doing it. I'm Sarah Fowler Arthur, candidate for state representative. It's been my honor to serve Ashtabula County along with 5 other counties in the 7th district for State Board of Education over the last 8 years. And I would like to take that experience to the legislature and continue representing education issues as well as other issues that I've heard about over this time, whether it is issues facing our farmers around septic issues or safe water. I feel that having an agricultural background will enable me to represent that area of our constituency in Columbus. And I'm honored to have received the 2020 Friend of Agriculture endorsement, or actually designation from the Ohio Farm Bureau, and really grateful for that, as well as having just recently received endorsement of the NFIB for small business owners. And I've served in a number of capacities as a small business owner and entrepreneur, having started my own business when I was 11 years old, and continued to pursue a lot of entrepreneurial interests over the years, most recently starting a U-Pick blueberry farm in Rock Creek, and having served as the director of marketing for Fowler Enterprises until getting married this spring. I just recently married my friend Isaac Arthur, who also owns a small business, which has given me the opportunity to pursue another avenue to share those interests. So I'm hoping as a state representative to represent the values of this district in Columbus, both as a pro-Second Amendment advocate and advocate for all of our constitutional rights, including the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I know those are Declaration of Independence, but it's a great foundation. So thank you.
Thank you, candidate Fowler Arthur. Candidate Dana.
Thank you. My name is Richard Dana, and my wife, Marianne Cezanne, and I live in Austinburg, Ohio. I have a business background as a practicing attorney for nearly 25 years, and our family owns Eddie's Grill in beautiful Geneva-on-the-Lake, Ohio. I have served our area on several community boards, including past board chair of the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, the Hubbard House Underground Railroad Museum, among others. I currently serve on the University Hospital Board, serving as board chair of 2 regional hospitals, both rated 5 stars out of 5 stars from the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services for Quality and Patient Satisfaction. I also teach classes in criminal justice, business law, and ethics at Kent State University at Ashtabula. I'm also a member of my local school board. It is in my work on education that I see the culture of corruption at work in Columbus that harms our children. $600 million of our taxpayer dollars were squandered when Columbus decided to fund ECOT. My district alone losing out in nearly $4 million from these failed charter schools. I also see a college education system where the state, for my generation, permitted me to obtain a high-quality education at the Ohio State University with little or no debt by working nights and weekends. That same education would cost the average student today $100,000. I'm endorsed by first responders such as the Fraternal Order of Police, teacher advocacy groups, the Ohio State Medical Association PAC, laborers, veterans working for Ohio, and the Farm Bureau as a friend of agriculture. I will use my experience to continue advocating for us in areas of healthcare, education, including the need to extend broadband here to our area that is so necessary, not only for telehealth and education, but also for our growing agritourism industry. I ask for your vote when early voting starts October 6th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate Dana. Candidate Dana, I'll have you start with the questions this evening.
Sure.
Many residents of Ashtabula have concerns about the environmental impact of the Petman plant, including air and water quality. Do you support the development of the plant, and how will you ensure that the health of the residents of Ashtabula are not negatively affected?
These are excellent questions because we have to find that proper balance here between industry and also water quality. Our greatest resource that we have here is our Great Lake, as well as our four scenic and wild rivers. I know that in the past we've had development that has occurred that has had a negative impact upon our land. We do have Superfund sites in our area that is from a bygone era. I want to see this growth occur here. That project does have good union jobs, and I certainly do support that. But we also have to make sure that we have those environmental protections in place here. And with the Ohio EPA and also with the national EPA, I feel confident also with working our local authorities that we will be sure that this industry is done in a safe and environmentally friendly way, but certainly needs to be monitored. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Dana. Candidate Fowler Arthur.
Thank you. Having grown up in agriculture, I know firsthand the importance of maintaining our soil and water resources and their unique ecologies. I think good stewardship begins with respect for our natural resources and the economy that is powering those resources. And in our efforts to preserve and restore a healthier air and water supply, we need to consider the personal and commercial freedoms, which often contribute to the new technologies, advancing our knowledge, usage, and conservation of those resources. And specifically regarding the Petman plant, I know that local authorities have already been working with the EPA and that this is going to be one of the most technologically advanced plants coming into our area. I'm very optimistic that we will be able to keep it safe and healthy locally for all of our residents.
Thank you, Candidate Fowler Arthur. Candidate Fowler Arthur, I'll have you start the next question. Hydraulic fracturing or fracking waste has made it to Northeast Ohio by means of disposing waste into injection wells, and in some instances, using radioactive brine on county roads and used as a de-icer. Currently, Ashtabula County has over 15 such wells, and Trumbull County has had well over 15 as well. Such wells raise concerns about health, seismic activity, and the use of radioactive brine on the streets. Please address these concerns. How might you mitigate health risks to your constituents from these injection wells?
Thank you for that question. I know that this has been a topic of concern for many residents, not only in Ashtabula County, but also the Geauga County portion of the district over the years. And it is important to note that there are many health and safety regulations already in place that enable us to protect the quality of water. And unfortunately, some of that water at the ground level was polluted in the past and continues to be an ongoing issue. I know in our area, my family drilled a well and didn't realize that when you drill deeper than 40 feet, you were going to have salt water. That is not a healthy environment. But we do have a number of regulations currently in place that, when followed, do provide protections for property owners and residents in those areas to protect the safety of everyone that's involved in our community.
Thank you, Candidate Fowler Arthur. Candidate Dana?
Yeah, similar question as the last one of having to balance industry with our beautiful natural resources that we have here in this area. We are sitting here on what is being called the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. And what my concern is here with fracking has to deal with what is it that we're injecting here into these wells. And when you talk to industry, they'll say, well, hey, 90% of this is just, water, and they won't tell us what the other 1% is. And that is a concern here to me, especially for our first responders, if they have to come to a site to deal with a particular issue and they don't know what they're dealing with. I think we need to have more transparency with respect to that process. And again, find that proper balance that we have between our environment, the safety of our first responders, and also industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Dana. Candidate Dana, I'll have you start the next question.
Please.
Poverty and drug addiction are two of the biggest problems in the 99th District. How do you plan to address these problems?
There's no question. I think that we've gotten a raw deal here from what's occurred from state and federal leaders here that sold what was supposed to be a safe form of heroin. And that reached into our area that has suffered job losses, and it has been devastating here to our area. You look at how many of our youth have passed away, and it's horrible. I have served for 2.5 years on our Mental Health and Recovery Services Board. I served for 2.5 years. I'm proud of the steps that we took here from which to bring in quick response teams, get persons into treatment, and those are things that saved lives. Ohio had a 25% drop in opioid deaths with Medicaid expansion. We had even a greater percentage decrease based on the steps that we took here locally. So I'm proud of the work that we've done here locally, and that needs to continue, and it's a model for the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Dana. Candidate Fowler Arthur.
Thank you. As we all know, many families, including my own, have been impacted negatively by the drug epidemic, and it is heartbreaking. I'm grateful for the steps that the county commissioners have taken with the drug task force, and I think that that has gone a long way toward removing illegal drugs from our streets. There's still a lot of room for improvement, and I know that we have a number of initiatives at the state level. One of the things that I've gotten to do as a State Board of Education member was represent our board at the National Association of State Boards of Education Government Affairs Committee. And while there, I spoke with an officer for immigration, and he said we would cut this problem in half if we enforced all of our federal laws on immigration. I think that that would be very helpful for preventing illegal drug substances coming into our county, and it's a good place to start. Although as a state representative, I would be looking for innovative things that we can do to support the county at a state level as well.
Thank you, Candidate Fowler Arthur. Candidate Fowler Arthur, I'll help you start the next question. What ideas do you have to improve public transportation in your district?
Thank you. So we have a big difference between the northern and southern aspects of the county. In the northern part of the county, there is some transportation available. In the southern part of the county, it tends to be a bit more limited, and it does create barriers for people reaching, trying to get out to healthcare or even grocery shopping. We do have some availability of that, and we've continued to look for ways that we can make sure that everyone has access to
30 seconds
transportation as they need it. And I think maybe perhaps we can take some cues from the Amish community as well. And there's a very large base of them around the Orwell area, as well as the Andover area. And there's a lot of folks in that area who provide transportation, even to folks in need, free of charge or at a very limited cost.
Thank you, Candidate. Candidate Richard Dana.
Yeah, this is a huge problem that we have in Ashtabula County, especially with the fact that we are geographically the largest county here in the state of Ohio. Extremely difficult. I see this here in my classes where we have our students that can't make it to class on time because they are relying here upon the services provided by the county. Our seniors have a tough time here from which to get to medical appointments. This is currently something that the county has to address here, and there is a definite need, and there definitely is a split in services between South County and North County, but even in the North County, it is not the best. I've worked on the senior board for a number of years here, and unfortunately, when you don't have the county that's solving this problem, we go to our local communities from which to provide this here. I know in my work in the Geneva Area City Senior Board, we were providing transportation to our seniors here from which to get them onto medical appointments. I know through our schools, we were providing food during the COVID crisis. We were actually having our teachers and staff deliver food. So tough problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Dana. Candidate Dana, I'll have you start the next question.
Please.
In what ways have you supported public education? And if elected, how will you continue or improve upon your support of public education?
Okay, well, I think this is the major issue here between myself and my candidate. I am a public school kid. Had the privilege from which to attend the Ohio State University, as I mentioned in my opening, at a time frame when the state of Ohio paid for 70% of my college education. We have reduced that, and we've had serious cuts that have occurred, as I've mentioned. There was $600 million that was squandered on ECOT. My local district lost $4 million based here on that. And we need to make that investment here in public education. I obviously support the Cupp-Patterson bill that would stop our reliance on property taxes here. We do not have the property tax base from which to support public education, thoroughly and efficiently, and it needs to be done. So that is a major reason for why I'm running here, is from which to save the future of public education here in our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Dana. Candidate Fowler Arthur.
Thank you. The majority of my time in the last 8 years has been spent serving our public schools. And I believe that we are best served when our public schools can make decisions at the local level without being mandated from the top on how they have to operate, whether it is control of our teacher and principal evaluations, whether it is the type of assessment that they have to administer to their students and how frequently, or whether it is the standards that they're going to be teaching to. And it's been my honor to advocate for greater parental involvement and parental choice in education. I am the first homeschool graduate in the nation to serve on a state board of education, and I believe that this has brought a diverse perspective that has helped parents of all students during this crisis to be able to be optimistic and to look at how they can support their students as we enter a new school year with many challenges and many difficulties for students across the board, public, private, religious, and home educated.
Thank you, Candidate Fowler Arthur. Candidate Fowler Arthur, I'll help you start the next question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you plan to support minority communities in your district?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. In the district I currently serve, I include both Ashtabula City, Akron, Warren, and other areas where we have high minority populations. I believe that one of the greatest issues facing those students is access to the same equitable opportunities as every other student. We also have this issue in some of our more rural areas where students are, whether it's lack of broadband and not being able to access their education opportunities online as we've gone back to school this fall, whether it is lack of a career or vocational education opportunity, we see disparities in the opportunity side of things. And I would like to see that expanded. I want to see all of our students have opportunities to pursue vocational training if they would like it, and to have that job skill aspect for real life as they pursue their future.
Thank you, Candidate Fowler Arthur. Candidate Dana.
Thank you. I'm proud of my service on the Hubbard House Underground Railroad Museum. I'm also proud of our young people, including students over at Kent State at Ashtabula that hope to lead the peaceful protests that occurred in Ashtabula. And we also noted Wisdom Davis, who helped to lead that. I also want to give a shout out here to our police forces as well, because when that peaceful protest started, Chief Stell issued a letter and said, "We're with you. We recognize that there needs to be changes that have to be made to enhance diversity here in our area." And I think we have a real opportunity here in Ashtabula here from which to make great strides here with minority communities. I look at the teaching that Sally Bradley and Elijah Juan Cooper are doing in our schools. And if we can do that here from which to give the promise of America to all Americans, we definitely need to do that. So I thank you for the question. And it's something that we can do here in our county.
Thank you, Candidate Dana. Candidate Dana, I'll have you start the next question. How do you plan to stay connected to your constituents?
So what happens here is Dr. Patterson is the current representative, and he holds office hours in large portions of our communities, in Chardon, in Geneva, in Kanya, in Ashtabula. I will continue that work here. So on those days that we are not in session, that we're here in the area, I will certainly keep those sessions open so I can meet one-on-one with constituents. And on top of that here, I'm one who freely, when I've been doing my literature drops here, I have my cell phone number on my literature. I have my email address that's there. So you're welcome from which to contact me with any concerns that you have with respect to state issues. So a combination of pick up the phone, go to your computer, or definitely having office hours, just as Doc Patterson does. And in fact, over the course of the past year, I have gone to some of those office hours to see where they're located at and actually meet with some of the constituency.
Thank you, Candidate Dana. Candidate Fowler Arthur.
Thank you. I would plan to continue the same practices that I've used in the last 8 years to make myself available to to the constituency as needed. And I found that it could be a phone call any time of the day or the night. It can be an email. It can be meeting in person. I've tried to communicate with the district via email and utilize social media to ensure that our district knows what's going on in Columbus and has the opportunity to voice their concerns, not only when they have an issue, but so that they can be proactive in reaching out on issues of interest to them. And I want to be available to everyone in the district to make sure that they have the opportunity to make sure their voice is heard.
Thank you, Candidate Fowler Arthur. That is all the time we have for this race. Candidates, I thank you so much for participating and being with us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, League. Thank you.
Our next race is U.S. Congressional Representative for the 14th District. This is a 2-year term. The responsibilities of this office are to represent the people of Ohio, their district, and the United States in dealing with matters of national and international importance. The general welfare should be a prime concern. Candidates for this position are Hillary O'Connor Murray and David P. Joyce. It looks like candidate Joyce is unwilling to participate in tonight's event. We have not had any contact from candidate Joyce. We are obligated to follow the League of Women Voters of the United States and Ohio's empty chair policy for federal and state races. If there is an empty chair in a 2-candidate race, a debate cannot be held. We cannot give the president candidate time for remarks. We thank you, candidate Hillary O'Connor Murray, for attending. Candidate Hillary O'Connor Murray's biographical information and answers to questions are published in the League of Women Voters of Ashtabula County and Gazette Newspaper's Voter's Guide. The Voter's Guide will be delivered to households beginning October 1st. Copies of the guide will also be available in local libraries. Candidate Hillary O'Connor Murray's biographical information and responses to answers to questions are also available online at Vote 411, a voting resource available online 24/7. Candidate Hillary O'Connor Murray, thank you again for making yourself available. We regret that your opponent did not do the same. Thank you and good luck on your campaign.
Thank you so much.
That is the final race that we have this evening. There were 2 races that we were not able to conduct, and that is for the Justice of Ohio Supreme Court. I will read to you some of the responses that we had from candidates for these races. The Justice of Ohio Supreme Court. The full term begins on January 2nd, 2021. The responsibilities of this office are to hear all cases involving questions arising under the Ohio Constitution or statutes. They hear appeals from the Court of Appeals decisions. The Supreme Court decisions are final, except in cases involving the U.S. Constitution statutes or treaties. This is a 6-year term. The candidates for this position are Jennifer Brunner and Judy French. The League of Women Voters was notified well in advance that candidate French was unable to participate due to conflicts in schedule. The League was unable to reschedule. The debate had to be canceled. The Supreme Court candidates will be participating in a League of Women Voters of Ohio's event on October 9th. We would like to share with you the Supreme Court candidates' response to the question, why are you running for this particular court seat? Candidate Jennifer Brunner's response is as follows. I love the law, I love Ohio, and I enjoy helping people. I am privileged, having traveled to every county in the state when I served as the Secretary of State, to have worked with Ohio's 88 county boards of elections as we together served Ohioans. I chose to run for the Ohio Supreme Court for 3 reasons. First, I want to be a part of the court that ensures that the first decision interpreting the state constitution's new provisions for fair districts for Congress and the Ohio General Assembly, when challenged, and they will be, is fair and according to the state constitutional requirements. As Secretary of State, My office sponsored a public contest to draw districts to show we could end gerrymandering. We used a formula that served as a basis for developing the state constitution's formulas for fair districts. We proved it could be done. Nothing is more basic to the health of Ohio's democracy than fair districts, and I want to participate in any review of that process occurring after the 2020 census. I want to use my experience to benefit the court and the people of the state of Ohio. Second, there are important issues such as when a police officer can make an individual get out of their car, under what circumstances criminal records can be expunged, when someone's home can be taken through foreclosure, or when it is appropriate for legislative caps on damages, such as the rape of a child by a trusted pastor, to be overcome. These issues are just a few that affect everyday people in Ohio. Through many citizens often don't realize how much they are affected by just the words of the state's highest court. Third, I have found that when there's a political balance on an appellate court, there's less of a tendency to groupthink. Better decisions are likely to emerge when they involve a give and take of views and the softening of others through reasoned and respectful discussion and decision making. Currently, the political balance of the state's high court is in a state of unbalance, with 5 Republicans and 2 Democrats. A 4-3 balance would, in my view, create some of the best decisions possible from the court. I hope to help provide that balance with my election. Candidate Judy French's response is as follows. I aspire to be a justice because it offers interesting, challenging, and meaningful work that serves the public interest. I aspire to be re-elected to office because I want to continue that work, both on and off the bench. As a justice, I am able not only to bring attention to the needs within legal profession, the judiciary, and the public as a whole, but also to advocate for change to meet those needs. The second race for the Justice of Supreme Court, the full term begins January 1st, 2021. The responsibilities of this office are to hear all cases involving questions arising under the Ohio Constitution or statutes. They hear appeals from the Court of Appeal decisions, and the Supreme Court decisions are final, except in cases involving the U.S. Constitution statutes or treaties. This is a 6-year term. In this race, we have Sharon L. Kennedy and John P. O'Donnell. The League of Women Voters was notified well in advance that candidate Kennedy was unable to participate due to conflicts in schedule. An attempt to reschedule with the candidates was unsuccessful. The debate had to be canceled. The Supreme Court candidates will be participating in the League of Women Voters of Ohio's event on October 9th. We would like to share with you the Supreme Court candidates' response to this question. Why are you running for this particular seat? Candidate Sharon L. Kennedy's response is as follows. I am seeking re-election to the Ohio Supreme Court to continue my service to the people of Ohio, applying the law equally in a fair and impartial manner, providing a definitive statement of law in a clear and concise decision. In addition, I seek to continue my work beyond the bench, including but not limited to my Lean Forward initiative, which advances substance abuse and mental health treatment of justice-involved veterans, civic education about the importance of our tripartite system of government and the role of judicial branch in that government, and the ability of employment opportunities for women and minorities in the law. Continuing to write and present legal education programs on important issues like professionalism and cultural consciousness, and my work to expand the reach of problem-solving courts by incorporating programs like Bridges Out of Poverty and growing holistic reentry programs. Candidate John P. O'Connell's response is as follows. The Ohio Supreme Court decides issues affecting everyone on a wide variety of subjects: constitutional law, education, collective bargaining, employer and employee rights, civil rights, utility rates, criminal law, commerce, legislative districting, and others. I want to bring to these issues an independent perspective, informed by practical experience and the law, to decide these cases for the common good of all Ohioans. And that will conclude our races for the evening. We appreciate everyone's involvement. Thank you, candidates, for joining us this evening. And thank you, everyone else, for being with us to watch. Candidates, we wish you good luck. We would also like to thank our sponsors, the Ashtabula County District Library and the League of Women Voters of Ashtabula County. And we thank you, the audience, for watching, and we encourage you to vote on or by November 3rd. And don't forget to take a friend with you. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.